Hey everybody, it's Tony George from DocSports.com. Welcome to Tony's Time. My good buddy IC, as they call him, Indian Cowboy, Arun Shiva with me here today. We're talking week 11 of the NFL. And of course, I tell you what, we're starting out this week, Arun. Last week, a crazy and wild week in the NFL involving one of these teams, and that would be the Thursday night game. We got to touch on it because it's a good one. Matter of fact, a rare week where you have a great Thursday night game and a great Monday night game, two prime time, and a great Sunday night game with Kansas City and Las Vegas. So, kind of the trifecta of primetime games this week. And of course, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with Russell Wilson in Seattle. 10 turnovers, his last 3 games. Of course, they're at home. They're laying 3. And let me pull up an updated total in this one because there's going to be some scoring. Might want to talk about that. 57.5. And I find this interesting. Of course, we watched the Hopkins catch last week on the Hail Mary that won them the game over Buffalo. Hell of a ball game to watch. The last time these two played, 37-34 overtime win. One thing about Seattle that has me scratching my head on why they're favored here. They haven't looked good. They're 1-3 straight up their last 4. Wilson hasn't looked good. They've been outgamed in 7 of 9 games this year. And the reason that is they have the defense is ranked dead last in the NFL, Arun. Pass defense dead last. And it says the run defense, they're ranked 4th in the league, yet last time they played Arizona ran for 159 yards on them. Could it be the case here on Thursday night? You know, you hate these short weeks with the road teams here, but maybe I'm thinking, at least off the top of my head, maybe the wrong team's favored here.
No, I think that's right. If you had to take a side here, you'd have to want to take Arizona. I know that, Seattle has revenge and all of that stuff too. I just hate going against Russell Wilson in general too. Every time the chips are stacked against him, he has a tendency to do. But this is the first time Seattle's lost, back-to-back games, right? And Russell's been talking about how he's going to make himself better and they're going to bounce back and et cetera. And we talked about it on the show, how they had not really played anybody and now they're finally playing somebody. Seattle's had a very generous schedule, right? Atlanta, sub 500 New England, sub 500 Dallas, sub 500. They did beat Miami, but it was close. Minnesota, sub 500. And then they played Arizona, right? And they lost. They played San Fran, who's basically sub 500. And they faced the Bills and lost. And the Rams and lost. So this team really hasn't beaten an above 500 team all year. So it was only a matter of time before I guess things kind of caught up with them. And now they face – the funny thing is, Kingsbury, he's beaten Pete Carroll now back-to-back games. And so he knows his system. So Pete Carroll struggles against Arizona now. And, more than anything else, I probably like the under here just because I think they're just going to – this Seattle defense has to show up. And they showed some promise in their last game, only 23 points to the Rams, about 27 in the Niners. But I think this is a gut check moment for that Seattle defense. And here's the other thing, too. I've always believed whenever a team faces another team within a month of each other, basically, that they have a tendency to play better defense, And given that the first one went over, I think the first one went to 71 points in overtime, I don't see this one as high scoring. I think eventually these defenses are going to step up. So I can't go against Russell Wilson coming off back-to-back losses. Do they really lose 3 in a row? Especially after horrible games. But I have a tendency to lean on the under here more than anything else.
Yeah, I just don't see any consistency on offense from Seattle. Now, if you want to get healthy offensively, you play the Cardinals defense. And then you look at the other hand, and you cannot ignore being ranked dead last in the NFL on defense. It scares me to take an under, when we have, obviously, Arizona can't play defense very well. And obviously Seattle can't stop anybody throwing the football. That's their problem. If you want to try and pound the rock against them and eat clock and kind of do what the Rams did, they wanted to run Brown last week, but that's the 4th ranked run defense in the NFL. But then again, that's skewed because everybody throws against them because they know they can complete 7 or 8 yards a pass. And why the hell would you want to run it? So it's kind of a damned if you do and damned if you don't. But I have seen these games second time around many times in these conference games where you go, well, I've seen this movie before. It's going to be the same one. And usually it's not, especially on the offensive scoring output. So I do agree with your angle there. Hey, folks, be sure and get over to Docs. We got a free $60 waiting for you. You can see that little pretty banner above Arun and Mai's head. Be sure and get over there and take advantage of that free $60 this weekend. I was going to give a shout out. Wade, who owns Docs, put out a little email to everybody. I'm sure Arun got it this morning as well. You want to get 20% off a football package from any handicapper at Docs. And that's the season pass for college and pro all the way through the postseason. 20% off. We have a promo code there that you use. It's called FB Remainder 20. FB Remainder 20. And if I said this morning in my free play video, if you can't spell remainder, I'm not going to spell it for you. You need to go back to college. So be sure and get over to Docs. There's a promo code box. Any handicapper on his profile page, there's a package there for season pass football. Type in FB Remainder 20. Get 20% off any handicapper. And if you add the $60 to it, which you can if you've never been a member at Docs, you get an extra discount. So that'll take you through the national title game and through the Super Bowl in February. Can't beat it anywhere. The next game here, we're going to go right to your favorite team in the NFL, Arun, and that would be the Atlanta Falcons. Off a bye week, probably played the best 2 games they played this season before the bye, and now we have Jameis Winston. Member, reigning honorary chairman of the 30-30 club from last year. 30 touchdown passes and 30 picks. And now he's playing for Sean Payton. We all saw Drew Brees go down. 5 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. And 3 of those ribs were broken in the previous week, and he still played. And he pulled himself up off the mat after that massive sack he had and threw a touchdown pass. So what a tip of the hat to Drew Brees, one of the best gamers in the NFL, quarterback. But Jameis Winston came in, looked good last week. He looked like he's lost some weight. He looked sharp throwing the football. Obviously, I think the Saints are one of the hotter teams in the NFL right now. And they're laying, let me get the current number here, but I'll tell you that this number here scared me a little bit. They're laying 5, total 51. The first thing I thought when I saw 5 and 51, number one is 5's a bad number to lay in the NFL, period. That always scares me, laying 5, home, especially on the road. But that total jumped off at me that this might be a shootout here a little bit. I know one thing about Jameis Winston, whether it's he's throwing picks or not, he is not, and you're well aware of him being an Eagles fan, playing for Tampa Bay all those years. You followed the Falcons so well. He played against them numerous times. He's not afraid to throw it down the field. He's not afraid to throw it in double coverage. Hell, he's not afraid to throw it in triple coverage. And but I think Peyton will give him a lot of safety valve relief with Kamara out in the flat and get him out in space and see what happens. Falcons up to the challenge here.
What's funny is the Falcons are 3-6, right? They actually could be 5-4. This is a team that basically beat the Lions. I mean, you had Todd Gurley who just wouldn't go down right at the end zone.
Right.
And we've seen other teams this season where running backs are told to go down and they go down. And if Gurley goes down there, they're 4-5, and then not to mention the fact the Falcons should have never lost that Cowboys game. So now you're looking at a team that should be 5-4. So this is a team that actually should be a winning team right now. So they're 3-6 right now. They have Vegas on deck. And then you have the Saints who are red hot right now, right? Winning 6 in a row, and they've got Denver on deck. And then these teams faced each other, and the Saints, of course, won last year by 8 points. And New Orleans traditionally has covered 4 out of the last 5 times that they played each other. Having said all this, I think you're absolutely right in the sense that they're not going to put too much pressure on Jameis Winston. He's just going to be dumping the ball all day, man. And then if they really need to take a shot downfield, they will. But he's not going to put him in a situation that he's going to. Obviously, Taysom Hill will get a lot of snaps too. They're just going to do a motley crew of mixes back and forth. But I think this is the game the Falcons are going to have a little bit of a letdown because I think what you're going to see is a lot of juice in the Saints building and a lot of excitement. And remember, Jameis Winston's been wanting a quarterback and prove himself for a long time now. And nobody was giving him a contract. It was a Cam Newton situation. Nobody was giving him a contract, and the Saints came and swooped him up. So I think he'll be motivated to play well today. I think the Saints defense is a little underrated too. And I think they know they have to protect him a little bit. The Saints defense has shaped up, right? They held Tampa Bay to 3 points. They held San Francisco to 13 points. And that was a game that San Francisco really needed. Obviously, they didn't have Garoppolo or Kittle, et cetera, but it's still pretty good. So their defense is playing a lot better. And I love Atlanta to death. You know what I mean? I mean, they beat Denver 34-27, beat Carolina 25-17. But Atlanta can be predictable at times. And I think people, now that they have some tape on how Coach Raheem is calling games, they've got 4 games worth of tape now. So they know what his tendencies are. They know what he's trying to do. And I think the Saints will be kind of ready here. I actually lean on the Saints here. I think Atlanta finally gets figured out this week.
Well, I think one thing, if you're Sean Payton and you're worried about Winston, I mean, they signed him, they gave him some money. He took a huge pay cut, but he wanted to learn under Drew Brees. He wanted to use this year maybe as a stepping stone. And he's going to get some rep time now where teams can get a look at him for next year. He's on a year-to-year deal down here. So that being said, the way you're going to be successful is have a really good offensive mind working with him. And there's very few better than Sean Payton. And you're going to see a lot of dink and dunk, and you're going to see a lot of running the football. And the only time they're going to take shots down the field is on play action when they got Atlanta sucked in to try and stop Kamara, or, if they got Taysom Hill in the backfield thinking he's going to run or this, that, or the other. And that's when Winston can find some, single coverage down the field. And they've got a couple guys that can stretch the field vertically, obviously. They got a good tight end. I think that I know one thing, New Orleans is going to have a lot of success putting up points. I'm a little concerned about Atlanta. Like you said, a little bit of guesswork there. I would probably lean with you as well there with a lot of people are going to be jumping on the Falcons here. One thing that I just wanted to bring your attention to in our next game, Cleveland and Philly. Cleveland at home, 3.5, total 47.5. And I have seen not one, not two, but 3, I guess, service rags, magazines you call them, including a couple of sharp bettors I talked to out here, Arun, that are all over the total in this game, on the over. Now, I know that Cleveland's weather the last couple of games they played there, I had them as a free pick last week for you on this page right here, on the under, because I knew the weather was going to be horrible, and it was. They couldn't even get the game started out of the gate. It was so bad. And the game before that they played, it was a 10-7. Of course, Chubb stepped out of bounds at the 1-yard line, but it still would have went under. And then the game before that, it was a 16-6 game against the Raiders here in Cleveland. And I cannot, for the life of me, and you know what? I'm not doing well in the NFL this year. I had a bad week last week. I went 0 for 3. I tell it like it is. I don't pull any punches. Killing it in college, giving it away on Sunday. That'll change this week. But at the end of the day, Eagles, I had the Eagles last week. They went 0 for 9 against the Giants in third down conversions, Arun. And offensively, can't get anything going. I'm trying to figure out what all the love is for the over in this game. I've been kind of under the weather this week and kind of been racked up in the bedroom and really haven't been able to, do my normal routine. So this morning I really started looking, and the first thing I thought was, here's another under. And the whole world's loving the over here. Do you see that at all in this one?
No, I agree. I don't see how. I mean, the idea is that Cleveland has scored 6 and 10 points the last 2 games, so maybe they'll score more. But you cannot trust this Cleveland offense, and you can't trust Philadelphia.
No.
We've been waiting on
No.
this Philly offense for a while now. And by the way, did you see Joe Judge and Cordero got into it?
Yeah.
And they got into
Didn't
a
he
little boxing.
What his playing weight? About 300 pounds. He goes about 6'8".
Yeah, he's
Cordero?
a big boy. Yeah, he's a big boy, and I heard he decked Joe Judge got the worst end of that deal because I mean he's a big offensive lineman, and so I guess he lost the fight, so he just kind of fired him. So so but Joe Judge is now the golden boy for the Giants now because that defense is playing really well. So the only reason why I bring that up is the fact that the Eagles just lost to the Giants, right? 17-27. I think you have to. It's hard to imagine trusting either of these offenses. And Cleveland, at the end of the day, they're starting to play a little bit better on defense. They still held Las Vegas to 16 points, which is really good because that's not bad at all against Gruden. This is a team. Vegas dropped 30 plus, 35 plus on Kansas City, and then Cleveland held Houston to 7 points. So you have to. I think their defense is shaping up here. I agree with you. I don't see the love for the over just simply because you can't trust either. And I'm not hating on Baker Mayfield. I think he's a good quarterback. But let's be honest, Tony. Baker has not gotten over the hump. He is a quarterback that's going to go maybe 15 for 25. He's going to get you about 175 yards. In a way, him and Carson Wentz are mirrors of each other, right? They both are interception prone, possibly. And they got some weapons, but it's mainly, they both got great backs and they both got good defenses. So I agree with you. I think this is going to be a game that, what do you see the total as now, by the way?
It is at 47.5.
Yeah. So I think I could easily see a game where this is one of those ugly games. And plus it's going to be freezing, and so it's hard to imagine that, especially with it coming off, and I just don't see the love for the over. I actually think that there's a chance that this game could be low scoring and the Eagles actually end up winning it. Because if the Eagles don't, because the Eagles are obviously, they're 3-6 at this point now too, right? So, or 3-5 rather. So they need to continue to win their games because the Giants are creeping up on them, right? So you got the Giants. The Giants can very well. In fact, I actually think the Giants have a decent shot of winning this division at this point now. And if the Eagles don't shape up, they're out. So, which is why I think this line is 3.5 to begin with. Because why else would a team in the Eagles, right, as 3-5, facing a team from the AFC North, sitting at who's 6-3, only a 3.5 point dog? Would you ever see them as a 3.5 point dog against someone like Baltimore or someone like Pittsburgh? So, I think this is a must. This reminds me of that game when the Eagles went to San Francisco and they won. Remember, like a game they had to win, and they ended up winning at San Francisco. I think this is a game the Eagles have to win. So I lean on the under first, and then maybe even a lean on the Eagles too.
Yeah, I think Eagles in a teaser's golden. I had them circle for a teaser this week because I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game, but all this love for the overs coming in. You're talking about the 23rd ranked offense in Cleveland, 30th in passing in the league against the 27th ranked defense, 27th in passing. And I think the key to success here for Cleveland is the same key to success it was last week. Pound the rock. If you got Chubb and Hunt and you're able to have you're ranked 4th in the NFL running the football, that's how you make Baker Mayfield a better quarterback. Because they're going to stack up against the run. You can get single coverage, and he can get open slant passes. He can get drag routes that are open. He's going to have guys doing 15 and outs that they're playing cover 2 coverage on that are soft on coverage. They're not bumping him up at the line and he's got receivers, obviously, even with Beckham out, that can make big plays for him down the field with that good of a game. I can't see. And I just haven't seen anything out of Philadelphia for me to have you're a lot bigger on them than I am here. I don't have a buy sign on Philadelphia because I can't trust them. I just can't trust them. I just absolutely cannot trust that offense. Even though they got Peter back at left tackle, I didn't see a lot of improvement last week against the Giants. And they're facing a hell of a lot better defense here. than that they faced against the Giants in back-to-back weeks. And by the way, whenever the Eagles and Giants play, I'll guarantee you one thing, that is a physically draining, hard-hitting, physical football game. And now they're going to go face another physical defense this week. We'll see how much gas they got in the tank there. I know one. Go ahead.
No, I just want to point this thing out, Tony, that the Giants are winning these games without their best player, without Barkley.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this is a good coaching job, and he did it through their defense. He shaped up that defense, and this Cleveland team reminds me of the old Baltimore Ravens team, the one with Trent Dilfer and Ray Lewis, etc. It's a team that's built on defense and a team that's going to run the ball and then trying to get about 200 yards of passing somehow. I think that's how this Cleveland team is kind of built.
Yeah, I agree. I'll go with you on that here. Let's get to the next one here. This is a big one this weekend. Revenge game here. Baltimore, Tennessee. Last year in the playoffs, they outgained them 530 to 300 yards. They also out first downed them 29 to 15. And Baltimore here laying 6.5 over the Titans. They've had this one circled, Arun, all year long. This is one when this popped up on the schedule, I'll guarantee you Harbaugh went and wrote, that's the only game he wrote down on the whiteboard on the opening day of fall camp. Hey, guess what? Third weekend in November, we're kicking someone's ass, and it's going to be the Tennessee Titans. And they didn't look too good on Thursday night last week either. A little extra time to prepare for this one. But the Ravens lying in wait here. 6.5 points. That, at first glance, that looks like a lot of points in this game. But especially, is it an overreaction to how poor Tennessee looked last Thursday night? Because Baltimore has not been what I would consider an A+ student right now. They have not looked good in numerous spots this season, especially against good physical teams, So this one here, a little bit of a head scratcher to me. Let me double check the total on this one. Make sure I got an updated total on this one, Arun. But I think this is going to be a really, really interesting football game. And I'm trying to get an updated total here. My internet's a little slow today. The Ravens, come on. 49 opened up at 47. 6.5 across the board right now. Check the weather, but at the end of the day, this one here's got me scratching my head. At first glance, you want to take Tennessee. I actually trust Tennessee's quarterback more so than I do Jackson. I just don't think when you watch Lamar Jackson play, just say you were living in a cave last year, Arun, and you watched the first 8 games of the season here. And I said, I want you to look at every quarterback in the NFL, and I want you to tell me which one won the MVP last year. Lamar Jackson would not be the first name coming off your lips. Might be Mahomes, might be, Russell Wilson, some of these guys that are playing real well. He is not up to MVP form, and I think a lot of defensive coordinators have got him figured out a little bit. And they sure confuse him with coverage, and he can't seem to read a defense. And I think Vrabel's one of the better game planners defensively as a head coach in the league, him and his staff. And I think they're going to give him some problems again, and you're going to see a heavy dose of Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on those accounts. I will tell you this. I think Baltimore is going to win this game not because of Lamar Jackson, but because of that defense. And I think this defense is going to step up. And I'll tell you why. We've been talking about how Tennessee has kind of been getting a little lucky, right? Tennessee reminds me of the AFC's version of Seattle, where eventually it is catching up with them. And they lost to Pittsburgh by 3. They lost to Cincinnati by 11. And that loss looks really bad right now after Cincinnati got thumped by, Baltimore. and by Pittsburgh. And then they beat the Bears by 7. Of course, they lost to the Colts, who was basically the Pittsburgh Steelers light, right? So they lost to the Colts by 17, and the odds makers got that game right because remember the Colts were favored by 1 in that game, and everybody thought that was crazy, and they were on the road and they were favored by 1. And at the end of the day, the good defenses give them issues. And I think what happens, and I think that's what Baltimore is going to do, they're going to stack the box and try to make Tannehill beat you. Remember, they almost lost to the Jaguars. So yeah, it's kind of been building little by little, and then finally the cows have come home, so to speak, and caught up with them. And the Ravens are going to win, but it's not because of Lamar Jackson necessarily. I mean, and plus, I actually think the Ravens didn't want to show a lot of their plays against the Patriots. I think they came with a really simple game plan, tried to score about 24 points and try to walk away with the win, and it just wasn't enough because they were looking forward to this game. They're going to pull out some stuff in this game that they haven't pulled out most of the season. I think that's how they're going to sneak one past them. And the Ravens did beat the Colts, right, 24-10. They only lost to Pittsburgh by 4, and they beat Cincinnati 27-3. I think it'll be an ugly game. I'm surprised the total's so high, but I'm not going to mess with the total. I wouldn't be surprised if it is one of those ugly games and it's something to the effect of 24-17, where it was still a close game, but they ended up winning and covering.
Yeah, I was surprised. As bad, the last impression the general public has of a team is something, despite all the supercomputers these odds makers have crunching numbers. They still build in public perception. And Baltimore did not look good the last time we saw them. And yet they hung a 6.5-point number on them, which is a little bit of a telltale sign to me. And, that revenge, home field isn't worth 3 here, but I think revenge is. I think that was a stinging loss to a team that was ascending to the AFC Championship game against Kansas City, and a team that they played Kansas City earlier in that year good, and they were going to avenge that loss at Arrowhead, and they just got ahead of themselves. And I think this is a game they're probably – you may see Baltimore's best game of the year right here, especially after they played so bad. Speaking of Kansas City,
I think you just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. I think you see their best game. The next one here, let's get with it. We all know the numbers involved with Andy Reid off a bye. This is well documented, and you kind of got a double whammy coming your way if you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan. Obviously, Chiefs are on a 17-1 straight up and 15-3 ATS run in their last 18 games with Reid and Mahomes together here. Andy Reid is 25-6 straight up and 21-10 against the spread off a bye week in his career, and they are avenging a loss, their only loss of the season at Arrowhead to Oakland, to Las Vegas, and it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke in that game, Arun, if you remember correctly. Las Vegas just went in there and kicked Kansas City's ass. They handed them their lunch. I mean, they went in there and beat them all 4 quarters in all phases of the game, and John Gruden coached Andy Reid's ass off in that football game. I'll tell you this, if John Gruden wins this game, he might get coach of the year if they get to 10 wins and beat Kansas City twice. I'll tell you that right now. Kind of like Cliff Kingsbury might get coach of the year if he beats Seattle twice and gets 10 or 11 wins. But that being said, I got to be honest with you. I think Kansas City comes in here and pulls out a can of whoop ass on them. I really do. Off a bye week. One thing they did in Kansas City after they beat Kansas City was they did a victory lap around Arrowhead Stadium with all the team buses, and it pissed Reid off. And I don't think you want Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy pissed off if their offense gets to roll, because he's not going to let his foot up off their throat if he gets it going here. A lot of sharps like Las Vegas. Of course, I'm out here in Las Vegas. There's a lot of West Coast bias out here. There's a lot of Raiders fans. There's a lot of money coming in on them. And yet, for all the love I hear this thing is shut up now as I look at live odds, 7.5. They've now hung the hook on the number here which is absolutely crucial, in my opinion, when it comes to, bear in mind, we're betting numbers. We're not betting games. But I think if there's one or two blowouts on the board this weekend, I think this is going to be one of them. I think the Ravens might be one of them. Talk me out of it.
Well, I think that's right. It kind of reminds me of the opening game with the Chiefs and the Texans, when it was a similar number. It was like a touchdown, and the Chiefs walloped them. So it kind of reminds me of that game. And I want to tell your viewers and tell our viewers something else too. Vegas plays Atlanta next week, and I think Atlanta covers that game. I think Atlanta's going to go in and lay a dud in New Orleans, and I think Atlanta's going to Vegas, and they're going to get excited to play Vegas, and they're going to cover that game. But having said that, as far as this game, I think the Chiefs have revenge. I'll tell you this, though. I also think this game goes under because Vegas's defense has been – I mean, Bellamy's going to – you're going to have to think that Spagnuolo for the Chiefs, DC, is not going to give up basically 40 points again. They're going to make the adjustments. I mean, if you've got teams like the Chargers, and I'm sorry, if you got teams like Cleveland holding them to 16 points, I don't see why Kansas City can't, or I don't see why, Kansas City and the Las Vegas Raiders defense to do pretty well. The Vegas held Cleveland to 6 points. They held Denver to 12 points. I think they'll play a little bit better. I think the Chiefs are going to come out and thump up on defense, and they're going to be more focused on defense as well. So you're going to have a highly motivated Chiefs team, and I also think Vegas is not going to lay down. I think they're going to continue to play well because I think this is a kind of a statement game for Vegas. You beat Kansas City twice. That's kind of a wake-up call to the league. Like, we can beat anybody any given time in the playoffs if we want. It just depends on if we show up or not. So rather than the side, I probably lean more on the under here. But I also think the Chiefs, you know how the Chiefs are when they want to prove a point. And I think the Chiefs have a point to prove here. So I lean on the under and I lean on the Chiefs. But I'm not going to give – my first lean is on the under only because I'm interested in seeing how Gruden coaches this team.
Yeah. Well, the under is 5-0 in Kansas City's last 5 games against a team with a winning record. And the under is 4-0 in the Kansas City Chiefs' last road game versus a team with a winning record. So you got that going for you there as far as the trends go. Last game, it was such a butt whipping they put on them. Something about they scored 72 points in that game, Arun. And I'm just seeing what the total in that game was 54.5. That was the closing line. And went over by 17.5 points. And yet odds makers really have only added 2 points to that. Which you would think, okay, they scored 72 the first game. You got a prolific offense that's pissed off. Off a bye week rested. You think they would hang 59.5 on this one, thinking it's going to be a world-beaten shootout, and yet only a 2-point adjustment, especially 5 weeks ago when it went almost 18 points over the spread, over the listed number that odds makers posted. And odds makers don't like being that far off the mark, I might add. Yet only a 2-point adjustment. So there might be some value in the under there if you're just looking at the number. If we close it out here, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. Be sure and get over to Docs, get your free $60. Click that link description below. And don't forget, 20% off. I'll say it one more time. Any football package, college and pro combined, season pass. I don't know what they are. You get it for around $330 or something with a discount, 20% off. Any handicapper, use the promo code FB Remainder 20. FB Remainder 20. Type it in the promo code box, takes 20% off. Use that $60, put it against it too, and get yourself hooked up this weekend. Quickly on Monday Night Football, this line is shot up. Tampa Bay -3 up to Tampa Bay -4 right now. On Monday Night Football, I think the total remains pretty steady there in that game. Obviously, you're seeing Tampa Bay develop their chemistry now. Each and every now they've had a couple of duds, and they looked horrible two games ago where they just couldn't find their way out of a wet paper bag against. Let me get this pulled up here. Dang it, my They couldn't find their way out of a wet paper bag against.
It was a bad game.
Yeah, and then they came out. They hung 46 on Carolina the next week, and this game here again has moved from 3 to 3.5, and now here on Wednesday afternoon it's moved up to 4, for crying out loud. And the total sitting at 48.5. It hasn't moved since the open there. And of course, Rams 2-7 over and under this year. They only had 2 overs all year. Both these teams 6-3 and 7-3. Arun, the one thing I think is a little, you throw out the New Orleans game for Tampa Bay, but I think we found something last week. Antonio Brown got 7 catches. They're trying to work him into the offense. I think you said something that was very interesting on last week's show, and it came to fruition last week. You'd said on last week's show that Tom Brady had so many talented options going into, including Brown coming off that New Orleans game where they got thumped and embarrassed, that he didn't know how to spread it around right. And I thought last week they simplified the game plan for him and had really a solid game plan in place, and he spread it around very well last week. You know, looked like a lot more of a planned offensive attack. And I think if they continue to do that, they're going to be very difficult to beat, and they're definitely going to be very difficult to trade punches with on the scoreboard. And really, I have not been impressed with the Rams offense all year long. I don't know about you. I think this is a hell of an intriguing Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the question's going to beg is how the real question is, how does Tampa Bay's offense do against this Rams defense, right? Because the Rams have played in 6 straight unders. The Rams aren't going to win this game because of their offense. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, this is a team that hasn't scored more than 24 points in about 5 out of the last 6 games, right? So that should be interesting. But I'll tell you this, that, you know, the Tampa Bay does have Kansas City on deck. So they have something to look forward to. And the Rams definitely know Tampa Bay just dropped 46 on Carolina and don't want to be embarrassed. And remember, Tampa Bay dropped 55 on them with Jameis Winston last year in that game where they went on the road to the Rams and embarrassed them, which a lot of people and crushed a lot of parlays. So the Rams have that in mind too. In particular, I know Brady wasn't a part of that, but Sean McVay was a part of that. So he'll remember getting thumped by this team. I think the Rams are going to play well. I think that they're going to get excited to play Brady, and I think they're going to get after Brady. How does Tampa Bay do against elite defenses? They struggled against the Saints, right? Only 3 points. They did drop 25 on the Giants, but they struggled, right? And I consider the Giants a really good defense. They struggled against the Bears, 19 points. So we're going to find out. And even the Broncos, they only scored 28 points. So we're going to find out how they do against an elite defense. And if I had to take a side, I'd probably take the Rams. I'd probably take the points just because I favor defenses in general. I mean, and I just like this. I just like fading teams that come off such fantastic wins. You know what I mean? I mean, so I have a feeling that the Rams will kind of get up for this game because they get to face the greatest football player of all time, arguably. I think it's going to be an ugly game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was similar to that Giants game where Tampa Bay won 25-23. You know, so I think one of those games where it's going to be tight all the way through. So I'll take the points and maybe a tight.
I love same game teasers on Monday Night Football. That's how I win money out here. You could do a same game teaser, side and total. I just take the Rams and tease them up +10 and take the total and tease it up to 54.5 and take the under. I mean, you got a damn good shot of winning something like that. Folks, apologize. I'm not on my game 100% today. I've been down with a massive case of the flu, and I kind of even look like shit, to be honest with you, but I'm hanging in there.
No, you look good, man.
Well, I buttoned up one button here since you're wearing a tie, so I went formal. It's making me sweat a little bit, but nonetheless, for my clients tuning in here, we've had a couple of rough weeks in the NFL. We're gonna have a good week this week, and be sure and get over to Doc's website. We got all kinds of handicappers, all kinds of information for you. And we're going to have college and pro football packages up here on Thursday this week, and of course next week is Turkey Day. So we're going to have our plays out on Wednesday next week for the entire weekend. We put them all out on Thursday right there at DocSports.com. For Arun, Shiva, better known as Indian Cowboy, I'm kind of under the weather, Tony George. I appreciate you tuning in. Come over and see us this weekend. Best of luck on Sunday.